Okay, as per request and some of our own interests here, we were asked to do a video on this latest news on this pandemic. First off, we're not going to blow things out of proportion. We're not trying to incite any panic. We are a little bit excited about it, because, not excited as in happy excited, of course, because these things do tend to come quickly sometimes and nobody sees it coming. I'm calling this the unexpected blow. These things can happen. Now, I don't exactly know what we're going to be telling you. Most of the information we're going to give to you, I want you to search out for yourself as well. My wife is going to help me out a bit with this video and doing some commentary here. She's been studying pandemics for probably the last 3 to 4 years now, due to the H5N1 bird flu. So what I'd like to do, this may end up being a 2-part series. I want to try to keep it as, as truthful as possible. Like I do all my videos, I'll be a little more direct in this one. I'm going to go through a few things. We'll talk a little bit about what we're looking at from what we understand at this point, and I'm going to talk a little about how this may have happened, because we're already starting to see videos float around YouTube on it. I'm also going to make some suggestions on what you can do to prepare for cases like this. Most of you probably already are well aware, from what I see of most of my subscribers, being that you're already interested in things like the economic situation, you're probably more prepped with something like this. For any of you who may have never thought about this, I'm going to try to do my best to be as thorough as I can. I think one thing that's affecting right now, possibly some of us in the back of our minds, is now this thing is happening here, not over there. What I mean by that is with SARS, although there was some of that in Canada, and bird flu right now, we hear about it in China and across the world, and we don't really take it too much. Now this time it's started here. It's in Mexico, United States, and a wishy-washy unconfirmed case in Montreal. What we're looking at is what they're calling a swine flu. I believe it is a swine, bird, and human flu. What we understand right now, they have never seen this before. There is no immunities to it. There are no vaccines for it. They're calling it an A-H1N1. That's what they're referring to it as, and I've seen it mostly as H1N1. As far as what it is, a pandemic can best be described as obviously a disease that spreads very quickly and out of control. We did a bit of research a number of years ago on the Spanish flu. Some of you may be familiar with that. For those of you who aren't, the Spanish flu was a global pandemic that happened during the time of the First World War. Didn't it actually start over in the United States, hon? Was that something that they said?
I have heard that it possibly started at a military base.
They believe it may have started, the Spanish flu started in the United States at a military base. But due to the unsanitary conditions during World War I, and with all of the wounded people and personnel and all that type of exchange, that's just my opinion. I'm going to throw this out here. That's probably didn't help the situation. But the statistics and the numbers we've heard with the Spanish flu is that more people died from that than they did the war. From what we understand about pandemics, they're usually predicting a pandemic to come about every 20 years, and then every, 80 to 100 years, something, they have a major one?
Yes, something like that.
Okay. Again, what we're telling you, I'd like you to make sure you do some confirming. By no means are we experts in this area, okay? So we're trying to inform you the best we can. YouTube is great for that. You get a lot of good amateur advice on YouTube, so we're doing the best we can with this. Some pandemics, actually all pandemics, from what I understand, come in stages of 1, 2, and 3, or waves of the disease. Now, my wife explained this to me a few years back, that you'll have a stage 1, and then it mutates, and then the stage 2 is usually the worst. Is that correct?
Most pandemics usually come in 3 waves.
3 waves.
The first one's usually a mild wave, and that seems to be what is being seen in the United States right now. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean it won't just disappear altogether, because there's many viruses that do pop up and then you never hear about it again. But in the ones such as 1918, it first appeared in the spring. It's the late spring and early summer. And the second wave, which was the severe wave, occurred in the fall. And then the following spring, there was another wave. And each separate wave happens when the virus mutates. So what happens is often the people that survive the first one do not have immunity to the second wave. And So whether you got sick or not before wouldn't matter. You still need to follow the same protocols to try to keep yourself safe and healthy and keep your family quarantined.
This is why some vaccinations are useless.
Exactly. If they did develop a vaccination, no matter how you feel about vaccinations, if one was developed for the first wave, that doesn't mean it would offer you any protection for the second or third wave.
This all can be researched online, by the way. This is not any of our, own ideas here or anything. And it's funny that you said that the Spanish flu started in early spring, and then they had a second wave in the fall. Here we are. It's not even really flu season, but it's relatively early in spring. Well, I mean, for us it is. With world travel today too, unlike the First World War, you can't tell me that it's pretty well global already if this happened so quickly. By the time they got the symptoms, most people don't realize that they're dealing with a pandemic. It's flu, right? You go into a doctor, you treat it as a flu. By the time this has happened, there's probably already been a good number of people that have already traveled around the globe. Now, we're not here to frighten people, but, I'm just saying it's possible.
It's like the pilot from tonight is being quarantined in Britain.
Yeah.
He was flying a plane home from Mexico. I don't know how long he was there or how much contact he had there, and they're saying nobody else on the plane coming from there was sick. But if he hadn't been caught, if he hadn't shown symptoms right away, how many people could possibly have been sick?
As far as pandemics go, and most people don't want to incite panic, and you know what? It may not be a great big pandemic because nobody knows at this point, okay? But the best thing you can do is be prepared as possible without going, lunatic on it. And, what I'm going to suggest here, this is going to go inside of coherence with our economic series, collapse series that we're facing. Some of the things that you're going to want for preparation, and most people already know a lot of this, and due to most of my subscribers being in the situation they are, probably are already prepared, and if not, have a good knowledge of this. For those of you who have never really thought about what I might need and why I would need it, well, first of all, if you're having a pandemic and it's a very quick pandemic, or it's a very severe pandemic and can be drawn out over months, a lot of the things we take for granted aren't actually available all the time. One being, I didn't even write this down because we're so fortunate here, is water, okay, and clean water being that. A few things you may want to keep in mind, like some of your daily needs that you're going to have. Water is a big thing. Water can be stored in anything, really, okay, for short-term, long-term. You don't have to go out and buy a lot of expensive things like that. You got empty pop bottles around, wash them out really well, put water in there, and the ones you're going to use for drinking, possibly keep refrigerated. You
can add a few drops of bleach per amount of gallon of water to keep it safe.
Okay, now that should be researched on the internet for the exact amounts, but that is true. You can add so much bleach, get the unscented bleach.
Yes.
But do research that for yourself online, get the best information you can with that. You may want to have separate water for other needs, washing and whatever, and use and reuse as much as possible if that comes down to it. For food, you want to look at stuff that can be stored relatively easily in case of any problems with hydro. So I wouldn't go out and buy a whole lot of frozen goods right now. This, by the way, what I'm telling you, and I'm going to branch off here, this is basically good for many things, not just this, possible pandemic, whatever we're facing here. You don't want to be caught with your pants down, okay? That's basically what I'm saying. For anything that's what I'm going to call like a quick bang, something that's comes on very quickly. Nobody knew this was coming a week ago, 3 days ago. I don't think nobody knew this was coming. Pandemic is being one of them. You can have a natural disaster. For those of you who went through Katrina, you know very well. You could probably tell a lot of people through your experience what would be good to have. You probably should do a video like that for those of you who have been through that, because being in that situation, you know what you did need and what you didn't have and what you took for granted. You have first-hand experience on that. There's a possibility, in this case, long shot here, but if you have a currency collapse in a country, a lot of people are talking about that. United States, it did happen in Argentina, it happened in Germany. And layoff, you can have your own personal collapse too. You can be paycheck to paycheck as it is and lose your job, have no other subsidies in the case of injury. Okay, so it's very basic. Most people know this, but it's nice to set it on a list in front of the table for people that maybe not think of it.